Due to COVID-19, this meeting will be conducted as a Zoom meeting pursuant to the provisions of Assembly Bill 361, which suspends certain requirements of the Brown Act. This meeting is being live streamed on the CCTA website. The chair will call upon members, staff, and other speakers by name, marks. Persons participating via Zoom with their cameras enabled are reminded that their activities are visible to viewers. Members participating by Zoom wishing to speak should physically raise their hand and unmute their mic when called upon. Members should mute their mics when done speaking. Citizens participating by Zoom wishing to speak should use the Raise Hand feature or dial *9 if participating via phone, and the chair or staff will call upon them at the appropriate time. Citizens will have 3 minutes to speak. After 3 minutes, staff will lower their hand and mute their mic. Participants via phone will be called upon by the last 4 digits of their phone number. It is requested that public speakers state their names and organization, but providing such information is voluntary. Written public comments received in accordance with the teleconferencing special notice for public comment guidelines are printed on the meeting agenda. If authors of the written correspondence would like to speak, they should raise their hand and the chair will call upon them at the appropriate time. All written correspondence received after that and during the meeting will be entered into the record. A roll call vote will be taken for all action items. Thank you for participating in a meeting of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority.
Okay, thank you. Terlin, if you would now call the roll.
Commissioner Carlson?
Here.
Commissioner Fideli?
Here.
Commissioner Haskew?
Here.
Commissioner Kelly?
Here.
Commissioner/Representative Nowak?
Here.
Commissioner Perkins?
Here.
Commissioner Gee for SOFS? Did I say that right?
Here.
Commissioner Thorpe? Vice Chair Arnridge?
Here.
Chair/Representative Glover?
Here.
Representative Foley?
Present.
Okay, we do have a quorum. We have Commissioners Meadows and Thorpe absent and Representative Peoples absent.
Okay, thank you. If you would all stand and join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is public comments. Any members of the audience that wish to speak, if you would please fill out a speaker's card or approach the mic.
I have no speaker cards.
Okay, do we have anybody remotely?
No remote public comment.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda. And that item will be a presentation. And this will be presented by Hisham and Stephanie. Excuse me one second here.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Let me just
Yes.
start the presentation. So I will do Alt V first. Alt tab. This one. We're good? Can you see that? I can't see it on the screen.
Pressure's on.
Here we go. Apologies. Can you see this? It's not showing? Okay.
Do you want me to try sharing my screen?
Yeah, why don't you do that,
Okay.
Stephanie? Thank you.
Sure.
So, good evening. Thank you for your patience. My name is Hisham Noemi. I'm the Director of Programming at CCTA. This is an informational item. We wanted to share with you the recommendations from the IAT Design Alternative Assessment. About 2 years ago, MTC hired HDR to start working on the study, and both CCTA and Alameda CTC helped oversee the consultant deliverables on this project. We also had formed a TAC, a Technical Advisory Committee, to get some feedback and narrow down some of the recommendations that the consultant came up with. The study aims to identify operational improvements along the corridor that we could advance into project's delivery. We have Stephanie Holm. She's an assistant director at MTC with us today. She will be giving the presentation. She's joining us remotely, as you can see. And I just want to say before I turn it to her, we did the same presentation to WICTAC in late April, and their comments are included in your packet as attachment A to the staff report. With that, Stephanie, you can take it from here. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Hisham, and good evening, commissioners. As Hisham mentioned, I'll be giving an update on the I-80 Design Alternatives Assessment, or what we refer to as the DAA, including our project recommendations and next steps. The project looked at the area between the Bay Bridge, the Carquinez Bridge, and Alameda and Contra Costa counties. This was a partnership with CCTA and the Alameda County Transportation Commission, and we also met regularly with local jurisdictions, transit agencies, and other partners for input. We started this project in the fall of 2020, and we're now at the finish line, with the final report expected to be completed by next month. Although we started this project in the middle of COVID, when the impacts to transportation were unknown, our findings have proven to still be relevant given that congestion on the corridor has returned. The purpose of the DAA was to identify operational strategies that could be implemented in the near term to reduce delays, encourage mode shift into transit and carpools, improve person throughput, and improve travel time reliability. We primarily looked at corridor-wide strategies as well as localized transit and carpool improvements on the on and off ramps that would support operations on the main line. The corridor-wide strategies that were considered include HOV lane policies, occupancy requirements, HOV lane access restrictions, dual HOV lanes, express lane scenarios, and a reversible contraflow lane. The full range of strategies were assessed through a high-level evaluation, which resulted in a short list of strategies. These strategies then went through a more detailed analysis to understand impacts on traffic operations. The strategies circled here are the ones that performed best and are recommended to move forward into the next stage of project development, which includes more refinement and analysis. I'd like to note that a bus on shoulder assessment is also included as part of the overall recommendations, but this is based on a separate MTC-led regional bus on shoulder study. More information on this will be provided at a later slide. To give context on what is recommended, I'll provide a high-level description of what we evaluated. For the HOV lane policy changes, we looked at increasing the HOV lane hours from just the peak periods to all day, and restricting CAVs and two-seaters from using the lane. The HOV 3+ access restrictions would implement a double solid white stripe between the HOV and general purpose lanes at specific locations, which is expected to reduce weaving and improve traffic flow. The bus on shoulder assessment will identify locations along the corridor where it might be feasible for buses to travel on the shoulder and bypass congestion. We also looked at 3 express lane scenarios: a single express lane in both directions along the whole corridor, a combination of a dual and single express lanes where the dual express lanes would start and end at the bridge to the 580 split, and a dual express lanes scenario that would be dual express lanes in both directions along the whole corridor. These would be conversions of HOV and general purpose lanes, not expansions. This table shows at a very high level how the recommended strategies performed based on the goals of the DAA. Generally speaking, all strategies would encourage mode shift, improve travel time in the managed lane, and reduce VMT. Restricting CAVs and two-seaters in the HOV lane have the greatest potential to encourage mode shift with minimal impacts to the general purpose lanes. The express lane scenarios have the greatest improvements to travel time in the managed lanes, but they would have impacts on the general purpose lanes and minimal impacts to mode shift except for the dual express lane scenario. I'd like to note that these strategies are evaluated using 2019 data, but given that congestion has come back on the corridor, we're still confident that these strategies will still provide positive improvements. They will be refined with updated data in the next phases of analysis. We also evaluated groupings of localized transit and carpool improvements at the on and off ramps to the main line. These improvements included access improvements, transit priority, and ITS improvements. The evaluation provided insight into which strategies could provide potential benefits, but they'll also be evaluated further to identify which strategies we should prioritize. We also conducted an express bus assessment to assess express bus service gaps and the potential for new or modified bus routes on the corridor. However, given that express bus has only been partially restored and future service is still unclear, there's no immediate actions related to express bus currently proposed at this time. We'll continue to monitor ridership and support other transit recovery efforts that are currently happening in the meantime. A bus on shoulder assessment is also recommended based on the findings from a separate regional assessment that was conducted by MTC in 2020. The regional assessment was a high-level screening of which corridors would be potentially feasible for bus on shoulder based on shoulder conditions and discussions with transit operators, which ultimately led to the recommendation of the I-80 corridor. The next step will be a refined assessment to identify distinct locations where buses would be allowed to use the shoulder. This will be for use during the peak periods when speeds are below 35 miles per hour, but we'll also explore instances where buses may be able to use the shoulder when there's congestion midday. We'll be moving forward with the project development process for the HOV hours of operation, the HOV 3+ access restrictions, the localized transit priority strategies, and the bus on shoulder assessment. This includes additional refinement and analysis to obtain Caltrans approvals, with the goal of being operational within the near term or the next 3 to 5 years. These strategies, except for bus on shoulder, are all also part of the Transit Transformation Action Plan. The HOV policy restrictions and express lane scenarios, they're considered more midterm strategies, and more planning work is needed before moving into the project development phase, including incorporating findings from MTC's Next Generation Freeway study, which is currently happening. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions and comments.
Okay, thank you. Just a question. Will MTC be working simultaneously with CCTA?
Yes, we will continue to be project partners on these projects as they move forward.
Okay, that's going to be very important in going forward. Commissioners' comments. Authority Member Kelly.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hom. And I live along I-80, and I've been driving up and down that freeway for over 30 years now, so I have a particular interest in this, and I did see this presentation at WCTAC. I want to thank you for including bus on shoulder. It's something that I've pushed for a long time, and I truly believe that if implemented, and people sitting in their cars like me are only going 15 miles an hour, and they see the bus going by at 40 miles an hour, that they will seriously consider mode shift during a commute period. So that's really great. I think increasing the hours of operation is absolutely essential, including that on weekends, because sometimes the worst traffic going into San Francisco occurs on Saturday morning or midday. Painting the double white line, I would just say good luck with that. You know, there's a lot of bad behavior on I-80, and so that's a start. I don't know how much it will help, but you certainly can try. And as far as the express lanes go, is there any possibility in the near future of using automated enforcement either on the HOV lanes or on express lanes. And I say this because, as you perhaps well know, along the HOV lane or a future express lane, there is no place for the highway patrol to pull a car over to the side on the left. And it's just almost impossible to pull them over to the right, particularly when there's a lot of traffic. So is automated enforcement a possibility in the future?
Enforcement is always a challenging issue, especially, on this quarter where there's high violation rates. I think one of the things that I didn't mention, and thank you for bringing it up, is that we will be looking further into enforcement if there's just anything else we can do to improve enforcement on the corridor. A lot of these strategies, they can't be successful without improved enforcement. In terms of automated enforcement, MTC did explore different technologies, and at one point we were going to explore and do some testing of some equipment, but right now that's on hold, but it's not off the table. But I think we really are just trying to keep in mind everything that can be done in the realm of enforcement.
I understand. So please keep that in mind, because from my point of view, I think that that's the only thing that's really going to get people to not speed and to get into the HOV lane when they're not supposed to be there. During commute hours, there's just tons and tons of people trying to get into the HOV lane when they're single-person drivers. So thank you very much, and thank you for working on this.
Okay, any other? I'm trying to get I got commissioners, I got board members.
And I got commissioner and representative, both.
All right, representative, no,
I just, 2 comments, because I think I saw this at MTC maybe. I'm not sure where I saw the presentation, but I saw it somewhere. And one of the questions that did come up, one of the comments was, and this I think is on the further study on some of the HOV restrictions, was on some equity issues with a lot of people that are in 2-seat trucks, eliminating them from use of the HOV when they're using work trucks to get places. And so I know that was a piece that I think was going to study. I just wanted to bring that up. And then the second thing, bus on shoulder, I think they can only go 35 miles an hour, not 40. And there's also a mileage difference. They can only go, 10, 15 miles more than the traffic goes. So they will be going faster, but they can't be flying by. So there's some limitations to that, but you still hope that it puts more people on the buses.
Anything, yes.
Yeah, thanks.
any other? Okay, Commissioner Foley. Fidelli.
Starts with an F.
I'm sorry.
I just want to concur with Commissioner Kelly's comments about enforcement. We had this presentation at WCTAC, and at that presentation, we talked about the access restrictions and the possibility that you might be using some Southern California models for in and out of the access and the HOV and the express lanes. And coming from El Cerrito, it's a quick in and out for us. So I raise that sensitivity of, for our residents, we're going to need some input so that we can do that safely and be able to be in and out in a safe manner. So thank you for that.
Okay, Commissioner Unrich.
Stephanie, thank you, and Hisham for this. We've tried a lot of different things in this corridor area. And the issues are a little different depending upon which direction you're going, what time of day. You have that 580 split that has a ripple effect. It now has a backet that goes all the way to the San Rafael Bridge, and another issue about closing a lane. There's a lot of variables there. But the high-level view I see here is, one, did you look at the accident rate and the clearing rate on this corridor and what impact it has on traffic? Because it seems that's one of the major problems there. You get an accident that occurs there, to get it cleared because there's no shoulders on the road. So an accident blows every model, because these models that you use don't account for that, because we don't know how to do that. So how theoretical is this then, because it isn't looking at, or have you found another way to take that into account?
Stephanie, go ahead if you want.
Okay, yeah, Sean, you tossed that one quick.
I can tell you, maybe I can start.
I don't think your microphone is on,
Oh, I'm
Sean.
sorry.
No.
No, it was on.
No, it's
Okay.
just, you need to get closer.
I want to say, I mean, this corridor, the I-80 integrated corridor management strategies are implemented in that corridor, smart corridor. So there is a lot of emphasis on incident management and clearance in the corridor. We've spent close to $80 million on that project, and the main component of it, a lot of the equipment you see there gets activated when there is an incident. Besides, there is also the freeway service patrol along the corridor. I don't know if the study, quite honestly, just looked at accident data, but your point is well taken. I mean, non-recurrent congestion makes up about 40% of all congestion. So if we could address that quickly, that will help with congestion.
Yeah, certainly.
So your point is very well taken. Definitely we will look at that in the next stages. I'm not sure, Stephanie, if you have any additional comments on that.
No, but I think with the projects that we're moving forward, because again, they were with 2019 data, a big part of it will be getting updated data and making sure that it's factored into our decision making and that we have the most updated analysis.
Great.
And I think in terms of incident rates, I don't know if we looked at it specifically for this quarter, but Caltrans does have their overall regional metrics, and I think incident management and response time and things like that are things that, as an agency as a whole, that all of our projects try to be aware of those metrics.
Okay, and then the other thing is, and I hate to be pessimistic, what I heard in this presentation is that this project, because it sounds like you want to put express lanes in, is going to make traffic movement worse. And the whole idea is we're hoping to get more people on transit. How's that worked out for 50 years? We spent billions of dollars. We went through a pandemic, and nobody wants to ride. Look at BART. Look at all of our bus systems. People have reasons. We had excess capacity. Driving habits are different. So are we really just trying to get people to ride transit, and that's what we're doing? Because our taxpayers are going to get fed up. We need to go out and get money to be able to do all these things. And if we're looking backwards saying, well, we already got the money, well, what story are we going to tell next time when we tell people that we're doing projects just to force people by alienating them in their driving habits to use transit, and that somehow that's going to solve all the problems? Is that what we're doing? We really are admitting that it looks like it, that this is not going to improve traffic flow. But we're really just saying, no, you're right, all we're going to do is try to get people to use more transit. Is that the conclusion?
I think what we're trying to do is improve the travel time in the HOV lane, because there is just no way for us to continue to widen our freeways.
Yeah, I understand that, but there were other techniques. I'm just saying, I get this has a narrow focus, and we've had examples of this, and extending the hours actually doesn't improve traffic.
Yeah.
It is still being used as a punishment tool. And I'm just trying to be honest, is that what we're doing here? Well, we don't have any other choices. There are other choices. This is one. What are we really going to tell people we're doing? Forget about the technical part. What's the message we can tell our taxpayers and our commuters that this will accomplish?
Your point again is well taken. I mean, the goal, this is a transit-rich corridor. You have BART running throughout the corridor.
Parallel, yeah.
You have a lot of express bus service in the corridor, at least before the pandemic. So our focus was really to make sure that, if the transit service is up to par, so if somebody has the choice to take transit or drive alone, then transit is available for them. And to do that, you really need to make the HOV lane, which currently is failing in the HOV because of all the violations, because of all kinds of lack of enforcement and stuff like that. So right now, if we leave things the way they are, I mean, people are not going to carpool or take transit because they don't see the benefit. So we're trying at least to clear the carpool lane for transit users, making it better equipped for transit by providing the ramp improvements, the access for transit to enter the freeway, bus on shoulder, more frequent express bus service. So for those who can take transit rather than drive, then they can do that and see the benefit.
See, I would quote exactly, write that down from when you first started answering that question. That's the message then. It's about increasing transit opportunities, about clearing the lane, because from a technical point of view, that's not the message that comes out. So I appreciate that. And I think getting new data and who those people are, how many are actually just going through that corridor to get back to Solano County or something like that, so that we accurately know what that pattern is, so that when you fine-tune everything you just said, we can fine-tune it to meet that pattern. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Kelly?
Thank you. One more question. So if we can get bus on shoulder and also increase the HOV lane, is there any possibility of having some sort of HOV access for buses on the Bay Bridge? Because what I hear from the general manager of Westcat Bus Service is that they can run buses, express buses to San Francisco down 80, but once they get on the bridge, everything just slows down. So I believe that MTC was looking at that at one point. Is that a possibility in some way for the future?
Yeah, so actually the way that this DAA came about is because there was a request to look at a bus-only lane on the Bay Bridge. And so MDC looked into that. And when we dug a little bit deeper, we actually found that it's the approaches onto the Bay Bridge that were more congested than the Bay Bridge itself. And so we prioritized identifying strategies to improve the approaches onto the bridge. And that's kind of our first step, phase one. And then, but looking at improvements to the bridge itself, it's not off the table. It's just that because the congestion showed that it was more on the approaches, that's where our priorities were. And so when we do these projects, we can see, how does it affect it? Is there still a lot of congestion on the bridge itself? And are there now opportunities where we can identify some strategies on the bridge itself?
Okay, thank you. And just please keep the idea open for the Bay Bridge to have some sort of HOV access for the buses. That would really, really help.
Okay, any other board members? Okay, do we have any members of the public that's in the room today wishing to address? No? Do we have any public speakers remotely?
No public comment, written or verbal.
Okay. Hasham and Stephanie, thanks again for the presentation this evening.
Thank you.
Okay, and Tara Lynn, let the records reflect that we've been joined by Board Member Thorpe.
And
Okay.
Representative Peoples as well.
Yes. Okay, next item on the agenda is the consent calendar, and this is an opportunity for members of the public to address the commission on things that falls within the purview of this body but is not on tonight's agenda. Is there anyone in the room tonight wishing to have public comments?
No public comment, written or verbal.
Okay. So at this time, I would entertain.
Move to approve the consent calendar.
Second?
Okay, so we have a motion by Haskell, second by Noack. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Carlson,
Yes.
Commissioner Fedeli,
Aye.
Commissioner Gee,
Aye.
Commissioner Haskew,
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
Commissioner Noack,
Yes?
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Thorpe,
Aye.
Vice Chair Arnrich,
Aye.
Chair Glover.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously with Commissioner Meadows absent.
Okay, thank you. We'll now go to our regular agenda items. And the first item is from the Administration and Project Committee. This is an action presented by Stephanie Hugh on East County Dynamic Personal Microtransit Project and authorization to execute the agreement. And again, this will be presented by Stephanie Hugh.
Okay, I think it's all working. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Stephanie Hu, Director of Projects at CCTA. This is an action item for you this evening related to the Dynamic Personal Microtransit, or DPMT project. So the board received a presentation and update last month, so I won't belabor the background of the project too much, but to summarize, the DPMT is a closed microtransit system consisting of a fleet of small personal driverless electric vehicles operating on demand on a dedicated at-grade or elevated pathway. Each ride is to be ordered per party through a mobile app or at a kiosk at a stop, getting the passenger from point A to point B without any intermediate stops. The system will be operated on a financially sustainable model. At the cost of it will be at a relatively same price as the transit rides today. In 2021, the East County cities completed a feasibility study to assess the viability of a DPMT project in East County. The project will tackle the transit priorities of East County, including generating economic development, having a system that will have greater access to transit for communities of concern, and also be complementary to fixed route transit. The study also determined that a public-private partnership as a delivery model would be feasible, and then also to encourage mode shift, the ride will be safe, personalized, on demand, in order to provide a positive ride experience. Here are some key parameters that we'll be looking for in a DPMT project. The system is to be operated on demand with short waiting times. The system is to be fully autonomous and operated with zero-emission vehicles. And because we will be seeking federal funding, the elements in the system will need to be compliant with Made in America rules and also be ADA accessible. The system has to be operated with smaller vehicles and be fully separated from traffic in a dedicated space, operated in both directions separately, and can be operated at grade or grade separated. The technology can be different than what we assume or what was assumed in the feasibility study. So since the completion of the study, CCTA and TriDelta have been partnering to advance the project and exploring how to deliver this project using P3. We hosted an industry outreach event in February of 2022, and we had good turnout, and we received some useful feedback from interested teams. And with the feedback, we refined our P3 strategy and model. And last July, CCTA, TriDelta both entered into an MOU that defined our responsibilities and roles in the project, including advancing the project with P3, if it's financially feasible, develop procurement documents, and also jointly negotiate and contract with the P3 developer team. In November of last year, CCTA and ECCTA, or TriDelta, released an RFP to procure a developer team that consists of a P3 developer and a technology partner to perform 3 initial phases of work under a system pre-development agreement, or SPDA, and this is the agreement that we are asking the board for your action tonight to execute. And as we discussed last month and previously, the first and second phase of this initial phases of work will be at no cost to CCTA or TriDelta. The developer team will be working on these 2 phases at their own cost, at risk. Phase 1 will be including identifying an initial viable segment, identifying a technology solution that will operate the DPMT, review the assumptions that was made in the feasibility study, and then also the team will develop an approach and cost estimate for completing the environmental review for the initial segment and also the programmatic approach for the future segments of DPMT. Phase 2 work includes beginning environmental scoping for the initial segment and also applying funding that's needed to proceed to phase 3 of the project and the future implementation phase. If we're successful in getting grant funding, phase 3 will start, and the work includes advancing the design to 30% for the initial segment, completing CEQA and NEPA for the initial segment, and also conducting an investment-grade ridership and revenue analysis. At the end of phase 3, that's covered by the SPDA. If the initial segment is still determined to be financially feasible, the developer team will enter into a system development agreement, or SDA, and that work includes completing final design for this initial segment, getting any necessary right-of-way permits and approval, and then construction of this initial viable segment. Because of the alternative P3 delivery approach for the project, the open and competitive procurement process included several rounds of one-on-one meetings with interested teams. In these one-on-one meetings were held after the release of the RFP in November, so the meetings happened between November and May. And in order to participate in the meetings, the interested teams had to submit notice of intent, and we received 5 from 5 teams at the initial round of meetings. And these meetings, the purpose was to gather input on the project delivery structure, phasing, and also to receive comments on our procurement documents. And with these feedback, we were able to refine our SPDA and our RFP. And unlike traditional delivery methods, the negotiations of the contract happened at these one-on-one meetings. The last round of meetings in May had 2 participating teams, and these 2 teams actually participated throughout the whole process. The refinements of the documents were released through a series of addenda, and there were a total of 7, and the last one was issued on May 19th. So some of the key substantive items that were added into or incorporated to the SPDA were as a result of these one-on-one meetings that we had. First, we included a work plan in the SPDA that outlines the responsibilities of CCTA and Tri-Delta, as well as the developer team, and also defining who will take the key role in certain activities. The work plan demonstrated the authority's commitment of staff time on the project, which was a request made by the interested teams. Secondly, language in the SPDA is made very clear about no payments to the developer team for phases 1 and 2 work under any scenarios. Even if we were successful in getting grant funding for phase 3, the authorities will not compensate the developer team for phase 1 and phase 2 work. The grant funding is to be for advancement to phase 3 and completing the implementation phase. The SPDA also stipulates that CCTA Tri-Delta, if we terminate the contract, there will still be no payments for the work done in phases 1 and 2. The SPDA also includes language on exclusivity to mitigate for developer teams' risk. So if CCTA or Tri-Delta terminates the agreement for any reason, the authorities will not undertake another DPMT project in East County for 12 months. This was a request by the teams, and this lowers the risk, and also it signals to proposers that we're committed to advancing the project with the team that we select. So the proposals were due on June 2nd, and after these various rounds of one-on-one meetings, we received 1 proposal from the East County Connection Partners, or ECCP, and the team consists of Plenary America, who is the implementation partner, Glideways, who is the system technology provider. They're supported by Flatiron, who is a lead construction contractor, Circle Point, an environmental advisor, and then InfraStrategies, who is the grant development strategic funding advisor. The evaluation panel met on June 8th, and that panel consists of staff from CCTA, City of Oakley, and Tri-Delta. We met on June 8th to score the proposal, and the panel found them to be highly qualified to perform the work based on demonstrated competence and qualification, their work plan and approach, technology solution, and then their approach with design and construction. The panel recommended award of the contract to ECCP. The recommendation from this panel was also presented to the executive committee, consisting of city managers of the 4 East County cities, the executive director of CCTA, and the CEO of Tri-Delta. The executive committee concurred with the panel's recommendation at their meeting on June 20th. In terms of schedule, staff is seeking your action on the SPDA this evening, and Tri-Delta Board is scheduled to take action on the agreement next week at their meeting. So to conclude, staff is seeking authorization for the chair to execute SPDA number 656 with ECCP to advance the initial 3 phases of the East County DPMT project and to allow the executive director or designee to make any non-substantive changes to the language. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you all have.
Hey, thank you, Stephanie. This is really exciting. I know that the East County community is very excited about it, and I think the model that we're using with the 3P, public-private partnership, really makes sense in minimizing risk for this particular project. At this time, I would open it up for board comments. Yes, board member Kelly.
Yes, Chair Glover, and I completely agree with you. I think this is a very exciting project. And I have to say, I'm really pleased to see the Glideways team chosen here. I know several of them, and I think there's some of them in this room, so I would like to see if they have any comments about this.
Yeah, we will reach out. Let me just ask if there's any other board members' comments or questions before. Okay? Welcome.
Thank you. Let me just adjust the microphone for my unusual height. Apologies. I do have a statement that I'd like to read, and while it is scripted, it does come from the heart. We've been looking forward to this moment for quite some time. So my name is Mark Seeger, and I wish to wish all of you a good afternoon. It is an honor for me to be here. I am the founder of Glideways, the technology provider that was mentioned before, and I'm joined here by my colleagues Chris Riley, Ben Iranaga, and Zachary Zelef. As a Contra Costa County-based mobility solution and having been at Gomentum Station since 2020, this is a day that we have been looking forward to for over 3 years. Our goal at Glideways is to provide the best ride in the world at the lowest cost we can, with the greatest throughput capacity and the lowest carbon footprint possible. Our vision is to connect people with employment, affordable housing, education, care, and each other. We think of it as public transit for everyone, everywhere. At Glideways, we believe that we must start with the passenger experience first and refine that to an art form and then back into the technology. And this is how we are able to move 10,000 people per hour maximum throughput in a 6-foot wide lane with service that is 24/7, always on demand, in your own personal car all to yourself, safely, reliably, comfortably, and affordably. Our solution is planned, both geographically and financially, to be a boon for East Contra Costa County by being responsive to community needs, supporting environmental sustainability goals, and most importantly, facilitating increased public transit ridership. We believe that this project will provide a much-needed solution that complements and supports the existing BART system and other Tri-Delta and CCTA mobility services. Providing better access to mobility for more people is what guides us, and it is what we are all about. It is what our partners are about too. It is your leadership here today and the vision that you have shared that has gotten us here, and it is an example that you have set that we will attempt to continue to follow. And we are very excited. So with that, I thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions if you have.
Thank you. Do we have any questions of our speaker? Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you all.
So at this time, I'm going to ask if there's any public comments from individuals in the room. Okay, seeing none, is there any remote?
No public comment.
Okay, thank you. I would entertain a motion.
I'd be willing to move this item on behalf of everybody here who's pretty excited. And again, really great to see Glideways as our partner on this and know that we're going to have high level of success.
Okay.
And I'll second that.
Okay. So we have a motion by Arnerich, second by Kelly. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Carlson,
Yes.
Commissioner Fidelli,
Aye.
Commissioner Gee,
Aye.
Commissioner Haskew,
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
Commissioner Nowak,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Thorpe,
Aye.
Vice Chair Arnrich,
Aye.
Chair Glover.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously with Commissioner Meadows absent.
Okay, thank you. Looking forward to this coming before the East County Tri-Delta. Next item on our agenda today is a presentation by Terlin Grover seeking authorization to conduct an organizational assessment.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners.
Good evening.
I'm Terry Ann Grover. I'm the Director of Administrative Services. This item seeks to approve an agreement with Baker Tilly to perform an organizational assessment for the authority. The authority is evolving and changing. We are moving towards CCTA 4.0 and advancing the organization to support the areas of accessibility and equity with the creation of a coordinating entity and Office of Accessibility and Equity. We are also exploring moving into the arena of operations and maintenance. We have complex technology projects and initiatives such as Innovate 680 and Dynamic Personal Microtransit, as you just saw. With an increased focus on transit programs and alternative modes of transportation, operations and maintenance, and expansion of staff, the authority is in need of an organizational assessment to reevaluate the structure of the organization as it relates to these goals and changing priorities. We need to ensure that we have the right structure, staffing, and positions in place to support these efforts. Also, alignment of duties will be evaluated, a needs and gaps analysis, research and assessment of the structure, and best practices to support these efforts, and research of other agencies that are already doing operations and maintenance that we can learn from to define best practices and a staffing structure to be successful. These may include agencies outside of California, such as the Colorado Department of Transportation, Transtar in Houston, among others. Additionally, doing a cost analysis of work performed by staff versus consultants will be part of the study. We want to ensure the authority remains an employer of choice and have the career ladders built into our pay schedule that will allow for advancement and succession planning. We solicited for proposals and received 3, one from Baker Tilly, Coffin Associates, and Regional Government Services. All 3 submitted draft sample reports and interviewed with the executive director and myself. The firms were ranked on their proposals, sample reports, and oral interviews. Baker Tilly was selected as the most qualified firm to conduct the organizational assessment for the authority. Work on this assessment will begin on July 20th and commence by December 31st, prior to the beginning of the next 3-year total compensation study. The assessment will consist of data collection, research, analysis, surveys, interviews, questionnaires, and development of a final report and implementation of an implementation action plan. A final report will be brought to the board at the end of the year or early 2024. Staff seeks authorization for the chair to execute agreement number 657 with Baker Tilly in the amount of $45,000 to conduct an organizational assessment and allow the executive director or designee to make any non-substantive changes to the language. Thank you. I'll take any questions that you may have.
Okay, board members, questions or comments? All right. Yes, Board Member Kelly.
Thank you, Terry Ann. And I know that Baker Tilly used to be management partners, and as management partners, they've done some assessments of departments in my city and have done a very, very good job. So I was pleased to see this. And I think this is a smart thing to do in any organization, particularly when you're growing, expanding, and changing, just to get an outside perspective to come in and take a look at what you're doing. I have one question here. You say that there's going to be a creation of a coordinating entity. I understand what that is. And an Office of Accessibility and Equity, I have no idea what that really means.
It's part of the Accessible Transportation Strategic Plan, and the task force is meeting bi-monthly right now to work on the coordinating entity as well as the Office of Accessibility and Equity, but I'll let Tim talk a little bit more about exactly what that is.
So those are two levels, is that correct?
Yeah, you might remember last December, the board approved like a framework for the coordinating entity. And so as part of the establishment of that coordinating entity, to be able to manage that coordinating entity internally within CCTA, there was the Office of Accessibility and Equity. And so that is the new program manager that we're hiring is going to serve as that Office of Accessibility and Equity within CCTA.
Okay, so it'll be a program manager
It'll be
kind
a
of
program
position.
manager position.
Okay,
exactly.
just want to understand
Yeah,
that
yeah,
clearly.
yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Okay, any other board members? Yes, Board Member Fidelis.
Yes, thank you. In talking about the great possibilities for 4.0 and the new equity challenges coming upon this entity, I was thinking, where's the third party to assist in giving a different view of where we should go and how we could reorganize? And I was very pleased to see Baker and Tilly, and like Hercules, they've worked with El Cerrito in a great way and helped us strategize and move forward. And very happy to see Nancy Hetrick, who might be assisting in that effort. So I would move this when the time came. Thank you very much.
She will be the lead on the project.
Thank you. That's why I'm moving this.
Okay, any other board comments? Do we have any public comments on this? Anyone in the room today? Do we have any remote?
No public comment, remote or written.
Okay, so I heard a motion from Fideli.
Second.
And a second by Carson. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Carlson,
Yes.
Commissioner Fideli,
Aye.
Commissioner Gee,
Aye.
Commissioner Haskew,
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
Commissioner Nowak,
Yes?
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Thorpe,
Aye.
Vice Chair Arnrich,
Aye.
Chair Glover.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously with Commissioner Meadows absent.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to our
Thank
next
you.
item on the agenda, which is an informational item from the Planning Committee that will be presented by Ying Smith on the Contra Costa Transit landscape. Welcome, Ying.
Thank you. Good evening. Ying Smith, Director of Mobility Programs. Let me. Apologize. We are trying to figure out the technology. Thank you. While we're trying to figure this out, I actually want to point out that since we're on the topic of transit, we have two
Can you
guests.
speak into the mic?
We have two guests here in the audience, the general manager from County Connection, Bill Churchill, as well as the general manager from Tri-Delta Transit, Rashidi Barnes. They're here in the room, and thank them for being here. Thanks.
Okay, is your
Stephanie.
mic on?
Okay. Is it better?
That's
Okay,
much
thank
better.
you. So this is an informational item, and staff is here to provide background information on the transit services and operators in Contra Costa. We prepare the materials mostly for the newer commissioners who may not have the extensive background. So for the commissioners who are more knowledgeable, so please consider this as a refresher. We want to share some top-line ridership and revenue information with you and introduce the players like I just did. The background information will be useful when we come back in the next several months when we come here to give you update and discuss some findings and recommendations as part of the integrated transit plan. So the second part of the presentation will be an update of the integrated transit plan. want to first provide introduction. There are Contra Costa County is served by 4 bus transit agencies. They either operate wholly or are largely within the county, including County Connection, Tri-Delta Transit, West Cat, and AC Transit. Today's focus will be on these 4 agencies, but you all know that there are several other operators who provide passengers with feeder service in to and from Contra Costa to an adjacent county. So not only we have bus services, we have rail services, the commuter rail train service provided by BART, Capital Corridor, and Amtrak provide regional rail service. The San Francisco Bay Ferry operates the ferry service between San Francisco and Richmond. So we have a map here to show you the service areas of the 4 bus operators. And this is pretty important, like where they operate, because that's what our passengers experience every day. So I'm going to go into a little bit more details of each operator service. County Connection is the largest among the 3 suburban operators, and it serves Central and Southwest County. It provides local and express service, paratransit, and other specialized services. And we'll have a little bit more information on their zero-emission bus plans. This is just based on the planning work that we gather from the website. The next one is Tri-Delta Transit. It serves eastern Contra Costa County. So Tri-Delta Transit, in addition, similar to other agencies, it provides local and express bus services as well as paratransit. In addition, it has an on-demand service called Try My Ride. There's one update to this slide. We are on the zero bus emission plan. Currently, Tri-Delta Transit is considering going with a 60-40 split between hydrogen fuel cell and electric buses. So that's an update from since the slide was put together. West Cat serves the western county, including Hercules, Pinole, and the unincorporated areas. It runs local service and a Trans-Bay Express route called Lynx. The AC Transit serves both Alameda and Contra Costa County. In Contra Costa County, it covers Richmond, San Pablo, as well as the unincorporated county areas. The numbers we show including the entire system. We have just haven't had the chance to piece out the Contra Costa service in this presentation. Next, I want to share with you in a graphic format the ridership trend in recent years. The latest data we have is from the reporting information from the NTD, the National Transit Database. And so we don't have the latest, which is from FY 22-23. So the trend you see, the base year we as a benchmark is FY 18-19. That's pre-pandemic, and there's no surprise. There's quite a decrease, but you also see an increase. And I understand that the pre-pandemic, there are about 40% of county residents commuted to a neighboring county for work. So as a result, most of the transit agencies focus on BART feeder service for commuters, in addition to the local as well as paratransit services. And the data shows, actually the latest data, even though it's not reported in the NTD, the last year there's quite a bit of changes, both in the number as well as the details. So as I mentioned, the numbers don't tell the whole story. There's a lot of details. The ridership, they do vary by the agency, the trip type, as the time people travel. There's some qualitative information here to make up for, kind of explain the numbers a bit better. So the return to work rebound has plateaued, and that explains the commuter ridership is lagging. Local service is the strongest among in terms of recovery among all agencies. They're very similar that local service is the one that holds up very well and have a healthy recovery. For example, County Connection report that its weekend and school ridership have been recovering the fastest. Those routes are all back to pre-pandemic level, and some of them even became higher compared to the 18-19 numbers. AC Transit has a similar observation. The weekend ridership is recovering quicker than the weekday ridership. All the transit agencies are focusing on how to balance their service within the financial constraints they have. And the next one we want to talk about the revenue side. So here's a list of more generic list of where the revenue came from, farebox and other revenues, as well as the different federal, state, as well as the local revenue. In Contra Costa County is Measure J, and we also have measures BB and VV in Alameda County. This is a table we get the data from the transit agency's budget, and it's just an overview of where the operating revenue came from. And we didn't have dive into the details of what they can use for, the flexibility is how they spend the budget, as well as some constraints in each fund source. This really just gives you overview. You can see that each agency really have a different makeup of their revenue, the operating revenue sources. Next, I want to just highlight the Measure J Transit Fund. So at today's meeting on your consent calendar, you approved the fund allocation in programs 14, 15, and 16. On this table, we show you the breakdown, the percentages to each, under each program and to each sub-region. So this is not by agency, but by the sub-region that we have here. And just want to point out that you probably noticed that the percentage look nothing like the current job housing distribution. And just want to know that the Measure J allocation formula was decided per the 2004 expenditure plan. It was decided in the bigger context of the entire expenditure plan, considering the priorities of all projects and programs within the subregions. So there's like a history behind how those numbers were agreed upon, and the breakdown, the percentage are not supposed to be changed over the years. Next, want to give you a quick update on the integrated transit plan. This is based on CCTA's Transit First vision, and this is our roadmap to look at to evaluate transit services, look at the revenue, and find some ideas and breakthrough to how to make the service better for the county residents and workers. The authority board approved the contract award to Sam Swartz at the March 23 meeting, and we kick off the study in April this year. The plan includes 5 tasks. So most recently, we formed a project oversight committee that includes representatives from all 4 bus agencies as well as MTC. What was exciting was in last month, the consultant team had one-on-one interviews with members of the project oversight committee, and we were very fortunate to have the general managers participating as well as executive staff participating in those interviews. CCTA staff was not included in the interviews by design, because we really want to create an environment to facilitate more open and candid conversations. And that's the feedback we got from our consultants. They really hear very, very good, honest conversations as well as a lot of ideas. So I want to, sorry, I went a step too far. So I wanted to share with you the topics they discuss. There are very comprehensive goals from funding, financial sustainability, to talk about travel trends and the challenges they have in adjusting their service to meet the current travel patterns. And we talk about some ideas. Well, they talk about some ideas of how to improve operational efficiency as well as productivity. They cover technology as well as the bigger picture stakeholder engagement and how we get more voices in the room, and then how we balance the different needs. We also asked the consultant to ask the honest question of what you want CCT to do to support you. And here are a few really important highlights. And we really appreciate those very constructive feedback, and we are taking them to heart and really want to keep in mind as we develop this plan, as we work with our transit partners. So here's the overall schedule for the ITP, and we plan to wrap it up by the end of next year. And I also want to talk about not only with working with our transit operators as well as MTC, we are really consider this one in the bigger picture of the regional initiatives. We are currently tracking MTC's Transit 2050 Plus, as well as the regional network management. We are in a very good position to have a close collaborative process. The ITP's Project Oversight Committee will have the project managers for both projects, as well as a transit agency representative to the Transit 2050 Plus. So the other way to put it is staff have no excuse not to collaborate with the regional partners. Want to just highlight the status of the different tasks, and want to also share with you that the next time we come back to you with the ITP update, we're looking at October this year, so not too far away. And that concludes my presentation, and it is, again, it's an informational item, and I'm happy to answer your questions.
Okay, thank you. And I want to thank our transit partners for being in the room this evening. We'll go to board comments and board member Peoples.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a couple of comments.
Could you cut your mic on?
There we go. I just wanted to make a couple of comments. Toward the end there, your presenter said one of the things I was going to say, but I really want to emphasize the extent to which everything is in flux. We got a lot of money from the COVID money. That came with some limitations and some encouragement to do things more cooperatively. The money that's coming from the state, hopefully, is coming with even more of that. Politically, there's a group called Seamless, which has been putting a lot of pressure on all sorts of folks. All of that contributes to all of this emphasis on having us all work together, and the stuff you guys are doing is fitting in with that perfectly. Also, just a comment, somewhat more updated numbers, but again, what your presenter said is absolutely correct. Our local ridership is back to about 70% of what it was in 19. We're running about 85% of our local ridership. We're only running about 35% of our Trans-Bay ridership, and the ridership on that is even less than that. So I'm just emphasizing some things that she really did say, because that's our experience at AC Transit.
Thank you. Member Nowak and then Kelly.
Yeah, we spent quite a bit of time at MTC talking about these issues as well, and one of the things we wanted to emphasize was really getting good data, because, it's not that long after the pandemic, and things haven't quite settled down yet, and wanting to make sure we really have good data on who's using transit, how they're using it, who's driving, why they're using it, so that any integrated plan or Transit 2050 can really reflect the new environment and then dollars following it. I mean, I think that's really important. So much of, what's going on has sort of been planned over the last couple of years, but we need to be a little bit more nimble in saying, okay, the environment's different for a variety of reasons. And let's make sure we really understand the data, what's stabilized, what's not, before we put money and plans together. So, but I do want to note as well, in part of the discussions, CCTA and Contra Costa is a little ahead of the game. We've got the one-seat ride that Contra Costa County Connection really is leading. And some of these projects, some of the other projects, CCTA, when I speak to the MTC folks, are like, you guys are a little ahead of the game, and I think that's great for CCTA. But it'll be really interesting to see the other integrated plans from the other CTAs as well, to see what other agencies are doing along the same lines and integrated plans, to maybe have some more suggestions for us as to what we do. So, one though, really super important is making sure we have the right data in order to make those decisions and thought processes going forward. Thanks.
Member Kelly?
Thank you very much. And I just want to speak for the small transit providers. WestCat, I've been on that board since 2015, Tri-Delta and County Connection. Those three agencies all work very, very closely together and often look to AC Transit for advice. On WestCat, I just want to mention a couple of things, and that is BART's going to be changing its service, going from 15 minutes to 20 minutes service, and it's going to be increasing on the yellow line. But when it goes from 15 to 20 minutes, that affects all of our bus service. And in WestCat, it affects our express service because we try to time it with BART. We work closely with BART. And then when we change those, the express service, and that will affect our local service because, again, we try to time the express bus service with the local service. And if they aren't timed correctly, then people are not going to want to ride. So that's one important thing. The other thing is on page 12 of the slide presentation, you had a presentation about the revenue, the operating revenue, and I just want to point out a couple of things about WestCat, and that is here for the federal grants, that's all for capital. WestCat at 22%. But most of that is from the ARPA funds, from the stimulus funds, and those have all been expended. So it's not going to be that percentage next year. And then lastly, on the WestCat gets RM2 and BART feeder monies, and that's here, listed here at 28%. But those monies can only go for commute service. And so if there's not a lot of commuters, that money will go away. And this represents about 1/4 of WestCat's service. So, we're just kind of concerned about this, and what figures you see this year may not be the same next year. Thank you.
Yeah, and just on that point, in terms of the feeder service, we have to, all the agencies that are represented here tonight, we continue to work hard to try to make sure that whatever happens with BART, that those services remain. That's very important, and I know that Member Foley is listening closely. Okay, any other members' comments? Member Unrich.
Yeah, thank you. I completely agree with both your comments, Chair, and with Commissioner Kelly. The landscape of public transportation is changing, and we don't exactly know where it's going to go. As much as we have been used to planning, we were planning looking backwards, and now it's looking forward. Glideways is a new system, but that's in a different space, kind of fixed routes and things like that in the beginning. And there are perfect spots where that's going to work great. The hope was, I think, is in forward thinking was how to make all these connections, and as one fails, it causes somebody else to fail. If somebody succeeds, it's going to cause a success. It's really interesting to see, what BART's model was, which was probably the highest fare box recovery in the nation, which is the reason why financially they're so hurt, versus locally, 95% is public taxpayer money, either from a federal, state, or whatever. So it's not as important. In fact, there are some studies that even show, and I know County Connections tried it. What if we didn't collect anything? And what would do? Ridership went up, and then you could ultimately back out all of those costs that go along and actually maybe balance out those revenues. But there are some success stories. And there are other, and again, this presentation wasn't about just bus service for the bus providers to come and get worried about what we're saying or not. It was really to educate our new, because this is a big point in time in history, is that a lot of new bodies that are sitting here, is this is just one area. We also have 2 other bus areas, and some of you may not know about that. Scott does, because he's been part of it for a long time, but in La Miranda area and the San Ramon Valley, we also have 2 independent bus entities that are specifically for school-age children for congestion relief around schools. And that's JPAs that we set up. Their riderships are over 95%. And the reason for that last 5%, we lost a group of kids that entered the school system during COVID that never knew about the buses because they were virtual in those days. So we're focusing on those. So there are success stories, but we had to pivot a lot, and the advantage in those 2 bus systems is that we can custom tailor the routes every single year according to which child in which house. And we have a package or a software system that helps us remap that every year. And that's pretty easy to pivot and do that. Not so easy for our bus because of the distances, the path of travels and things like that. As we've seen, the commuter systems have dropped off dramatically. For the AC Transits and some of our other agencies, that was their main revenue because they were robust, they were cost efficient, those seats were full, so that's a different model. It's hurting our ferry service too, which we'll talk about at another time, but ferry service was for the commuters to San Francisco. So back to what I've been saying for 25 years, we got to get over the hangover of trying to spend all of our dollars to get people to San Francisco. That's gone. We have to now figure out how to get people to live and work and get them to those places effectively. Just getting from Danville to here, which is only 8.7 miles, the average speed was 7 miles an hour. Now, if there was a bus there, it would be 7 miles an hour according to today's plan because we don't have any alternative. But we're looking at bus and shoulder, we're looking at all those things. So, very complex model. But current data is really important in knowing where people are going. We got to find that out so we can actually plan for the future. But Ying, thank you for the presentation and look forward to the next round.
Thank you. Is there any other members? Okay, we'll go out to our public.
I've got a public speaker card from Bill Churchill with County Connection.
Welcome, Bill.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. And I wanted to thank 2CTA and Ying for the work that they've done on putting this together. I just wanted to have an opportunity to provide a little nuance as to what's going on, and maybe it's somewhat insightful. I hope that would be my purpose. A couple of things that I think are important. So some of the data was taken from NTD, but it doesn't really give or completely capture the nuance of what's happening. Not only are the bus agencies' ridership growth growing and fairly significantly, but that rate of growth is growing significantly. So when looking at the charts and you look at the current year of FY23 in total, it would give you the wrong impression. And that's why I wanted to provide a little nuance. So the impression that the NTD data gives is that we're about 70% recovered. But County Connection is over 80% recovered and has sustained that for over 3 months now. And that growth rate continues. And just as Commissioner Unrich had demonstrated, it's changed. Our commuter ridership is still down. It's only 30% of pre-COVID. And in particular, the area between Walnut Creek and San Ramon, we have 3 routes that cover that segment, 2 of which are commuter routes. They're only 30% recovered. But the city route that winds its way through Walnut Creek, Alamo, Danville, and ends up in San Ramon is over 85% recovered. So it's showing you that people are going to work locally. They're using the services for hospital trips, for grocery trips, and for work trips. Our weekend service is over 100% of pre-COVID numbers, and our student ridership is nearly 100% of pre-COVID. So I think it's a good story. The growth in the bus world is actually profound. I think it's going to be sustained. It's going to continue to grow. The other thing, and I think this is the silver lining of COVID, and Chris People spoke to this. Really, what COVID did is it drove us operators together in a way that we've never been before. We are collaborating at a way and at a level that has never happened before, I think, in the history of the region. So the 4 East Bay operators, I can't speak to AC Transit, but Westcat, County Connection, Tri-Delta, and LAFTA, which isn't even in Contra Costa County, are considered to be the most highly coordinated transit operators in the entire 9-county Bay Area. We coordinated our fares. In fact, the Bay Area as a whole is trying to mimic our fare structures. We coordinated our routes to meet each other. We've coordinated our paratransit programs in ways that nobody else has ever seen, and we're actually garnering national attention for some of those things. So there is a silver lining. We're coming out of this thing in a stronger way, and I just wanted to express my appreciation for the partnership and the support. I look forward to how we can continue to move forward in a stronger, better way, serving our communities. And thank you.
And thank you, Bill, for those comments. Very enlightening, and it's great when our operators are all working together.
Sorry. Yeah. I just wanted to take the time out to say thank you. Thank you to CTA for everything you've done. My name is Rashidi Barnes. I'm the new executive director or CEO for Tri-Delta Transit.
Anymore.
I can still use that. Stop. I wanted to touch on one piece that was brought up before it gets lost. Yes, the state gave us money. Yes, BART is going to be able to do the things that they need to do. However, FY25, we don't know what that's going to look like. And so I asked this body, I'm asking my board as well, to keep that in mind. When we're making plans outward, let's start thinking about, okay, if this crumbles, how can we help support the small operators? Because the small operators to the yellow line, even during COVID, we were there. We were getting people to those trains. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the yellow line was also one of the highest riderships through COVID. And so that wasn't just by chance. So my point is that if the feeder systems don't get those funds that we need in FY25, it will become problematic. And so hopefully this body keeps that in mind as we start looking at the future on how we're going to put butts in the seat at the end of the day, because that's what it comes down to. Thank you.
Thank you, Rashidi. Any other? I see we have Mr. Olson.
Yeah, good evening. Bruce Olson, Mr. Bicycle from East County. I'd like to make a little comment on Mr. Arnrich's comment about traffic being 7 miles an hour on average between San Ramon and Walnut Creek. I'm 74 years old. I can average 9 miles an hour on my bicycle. That's without an electric motor. Electric bicycles are the future. They can go 20 miles an hour. No problem. They're just like, right now with bicycles, we're just like Henry Ford was when he brought out the Model T. They're going to take off gigantically. The speed limit on the bike path is 15 miles an hour, but these bikes can go 20 miles an hour. Enforcement, as we learned in our Interstate 80 study report, is non-existent. So you'll see electric bikes on the bike path doing 20 miles an hour also. The future of transportation is electric bikes. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other individuals in the room with comments? Seeing none, do we have any remote comments?
No remote public comments, but I do want to note that we received a written public comment from Rob Thompson with Westcat that was provided to the board.
Okay, thank you, and that's in front of all board members. Okay, this is a informational item, so we will move to our next item, which is to introduce, this will be introduced by Ying Smith on the transportation funds for clean air programs and presented by 511 Contra Costa staff on the commute alternatives and 511 Contra Costa programs. Welcome.
Thank you. In this presentation, I'm going to tag team with Kirsten Riker from 511 Contra Costa. And I got it this time. Sorry? Okay. Good evening. We good? Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Kirsten Riker. I'm a program manager for 511 Contra Costa. I've been working on this program for a long time, since 2012, and I've met most of you, so nice to see everybody again. So a little bit about what we do and who we are. 511 Contra Costa is a countywide program focused on reducing traffic and improving air quality by promoting alternatives to driving alone. So we encourage the use of transit, ride sharing, biking, walking, and working from home. We offer a variety of free programs and services for employers in the workforce, youth and schools, and residents of all ages. We're also a partner member of the Contra Costa Green Business Program. A little bit about how we're implemented. 511 Contra Costa is implemented cooperatively by staff in 3 separate sub-regional offices, serving all 4 RTPCs. CCTA here provides the oversight for the sub-regional office that I manage. My team is staffed by AMG, and our program is primarily responsible for services in Transpac and Transplan regions. The Southwest region is managed by Darlene Amaral, with program oversight provided by SWAT, and Corey Riley manages the programs in West Contra Costa with oversight from WICTAC. We are all funded by CCTA with a combination of Measure J funds earmarked for transportation alternatives, as well as the Air District's Transportation Fund for Clean Air. Now, while the subregions all have separate management, I want to stress that everything you're going to hear about tonight is offered countywide, available to residents in all of our cities and unincorporated areas. And our 3 offices work very collaboratively together to provide seamless service for the public. So I always like to start by clarifying a little bit. We're often confused with 511.org, which is the regional program serving all 9 counties in the Bay Area. And that program is run by MTC. 511.org provides real-time traffic updates and offers carpool ride matching for the entire 9-county Bay Area. In contrast, 511 Contra Costa is your local program serving the people who live and work here in our county. Our services include commute planning and information, a guaranteed ride home program, free incentives for green commuting, youth programs, and a few just for fun programs designed to create active transportation habits for local trips. And I'll go over each of these in the next several slides. So the main purpose of 511 Contra Costa is to provide marketing for green transportation of all modes. So I'll start by talking a little bit about our outreach and communications. We have a mobile-friendly website that gets over 12,000 page views every month. Our social media channels have over 6,000 followers,
And last year, our posts generated over 240,000 impressions in just the 1 year. We produce a short monthly newsletter with information about commute options, current programs, and seasonal promotions. Our subscription numbers have been steadily growing over the last several years, and we're up to over 25,000 readers with an open rate of an impressive over 40%, which if you do newsletters, that's pretty good. So if you're not already subscribed to our newsletter, I'd love you to please sign up today and share the newsletter with your outreach team. Our programs focus on climate change actions that everyone can take, and our resources generally include either a financial and or recreational aspect that makes them easy and popular to share. One of the most basic services that we provide is personalized commute planning. This can be especially helpful for new residents in the county, people starting new jobs, or for anybody who's wondering how you can travel into, out of, or through Contra Costa without a car. So our commute coach can help you understand which door-to-door commute options are available. We include time estimates, cost comparisons, and we can even help you calculate your commute's carbon footprint. And plus, we'll get you registered for the incentives that match your commute choice. And this free service is available via phone, email, or text. Our employer programs have us visiting work sites, hosting transportation events, providing custom digital employee surveys, and materials that HR departments can send out directly through company email. During COVID, at the beginning, we developed a work-from-home toolkit for employers to develop or create official policies and programs that lead to fewer workday and commute hour trips. Every month, we promote National Bike Month and Bike to Work Day, which is a fun annual Bay Area-wide event that promotes biking to work. It rewards longtime bike commuters, and it also encourages first-timers to try it in a supportive and a fun environment. This year, we sponsored over 40 Energizer stations throughout the county. Now, people often tell us that the reason they're not going to try taking the bus or riding their bike or carpooling or whatever, they don't want to get stuck without a ride home in case of an emergency. Our Guaranteed Ride Home program offers what we call no-cost commuter insurance by reimbursing people for up to 6 rides home using Uber or Lyft every year. So for example, if you carpool to work and in the middle of the day you get a call from your kid's school saying they're sick and you got to come pick them up right now, you can just hop in an Uber, get home quickly, and we'll reimburse you for that ride. Or if you rode your bike to work, maybe you got a flat tire on the way there, again, no problem. You can get a free Uber ride home and we'll pay you back. So this program is completely free and available to anybody who works or attends college in Contra Costa County. In addition to the Guaranteed Ride Home program, we also provide a general cash incentive for employees to commit to using transit, carpooling, biking, walking, or even working from home at least once a week. The reward is a choice of a $25 gift card, or you can choose to have your reward go toward having 25 trees planted in your name. Pretty cool. We also offer mode-specific incentives as well. So for example, if you're new to transit and you don't have a Clipper card yet, our Try Transit program will give you a free Clipper card preloaded with $25 to get you going. We also offer various bus pass incentives, including take 10 free rides, buy one get one free monthly passes, and various seasonal promotions throughout the year. Our Secure Your Cycle program offers a free $20 Bike Link e-locker card so that you can lock up your e-bike or regular bike in those high security bike lockers found at BART stations and various other locations throughout the Bay Area. And if you join or start a van pool, we'll provide cash subsidies to help defray those costs. And as you know, as Mr. Olson reminded everybody, e-bikes are getting more and more popular. For people who can't or simply won't use transit, e-bikes do provide that legit option other than driving for those short trips, like the one from Danville up the Iron Horse Trail. You can get there on an e-bike lickety-split. 501 Contra Costa offered the first e-bike rebate program in the Bay Area. We started that several years ago. We offered cash rebates for the purchase of a new e-bike. Our standard rebate is $150 for any adult resident of the county. If you have a qualified low household income, your rebate goes up to either $300 or $500 depending on your home city. Our $500 rebate is limited to low-income residents in our highest equity priority communities. To date, we've issued over 12,000, not quite, over 1,200 rebates, and we've received excellent feedback. We're collecting robust user data in our follow-up surveys, and it's telling us that people are in fact replacing car trips with e-biking. Next, I'll move on to our youth programs. We have several youth programs aimed at reducing that school and after-school traffic. Our Pass to Class program just opened, and it provides up to 2 months of free bus rides on County Connection, Tri-Delta Transit, WestCat, and AC Transit at the beginning of every school year. We supply thousands of passes countywide every year. Our Summer Youth Pass lets kids take unlimited bus rides all summer, June through August, for only $30, which is the half price of what it would cost without the promotion. And School Pool is our back-to-school carpool promotion to encourage families to buddy up and share rides for the school commute. Next, I'll talk a little bit about the Street Smarts Diablo program. And I mentioned earlier that everything I've been talking about is offered countywide. For now, this program, which has been going since 2012, is offered in Central and Eastern Contra Costa by the program that I manage. Last year, we also expanded this program into La Miranda. And with CCTA's recent OBAG 3 funding, we're going to have continued funding not only for our program in Transplant and La Miranda, but throughout the county. The San Ramon Valley Street Smarts program and the County Public Health Department will be co-implementers, providing safe routes education and encouragement countywide. As a potential model, our Street Smarts Diablo program provides safety assemblies, walk and roll to school events, and a free helmet program. And in fact, we've given out over 6,200 helmets since our program started. We also offer a variety of safety materials for community outreach, including digital graphics, seasonal safety reminders, yard signs, parking lot banners, and for cities and schools to use. Our online resources include helmet information, a community safety pledge, carpooling tips, at-home activities, fun safety videos, and more. Our Street Smarts Diablo program is quite active. We were at 55 schools last year, and we're already scheduled for over 30 schools this coming fall alone. We enjoy strong support with schools, cities, and local traffic enforcement teams. And I always say it, and it's true, working on this program is the best part of my job. It's a lot of fun. Next, I'll talk about some of our community programs and what we call our Just for Fun stuff. We've designed a couple of game-like programs over the years, which we say are just for fun, but in reality, they're sneaky and effective ways of A, getting people to use and enjoy using active transportation for local trips, and B, to get people to trust and follow the 511 Contra Costa brand, so that they're more receptive when we talk about the less fun stuff, like, no offense, riding BART or taking the bus. These programs get people to listen. So both challenges are popular 12-week programs that use proven methods of behavior change, including gamification, positive weekly reinforcement, and celebration of the achievement. The Summer Bike Challenge, which is happening right now, is one of our most popular and well-loved programs. The tagline for this program is "Explore your town from the seat of a bike." And all 19 cities in the county get their own game board, unique to each city. This, what you see here on the screen as an example, is the game board this year for Pleasant Hill. Every year we feature different local destinations unique to each city for people to bike to, such as public parks, public buildings, city hall, downtown, schools, and other points of interest. We also host 3 in-person events per city every year. And as an example here on the slide, you can see all the bikes taking up the parking spaces. And this is at downtown Pleasant Hill in front of Coco Swirl. So this picture is a perfect depiction of what our program is accomplishing, bikes instead of cars. The most exciting part of this program, however, for us, is the fact that 95% of our participants voluntarily opt in to receive a Monday email from us for 3 months in a row. This Monday email consists of a bonus bike ride challenge of the week with a new theme that people are supposed to go out, take their bike ride, capture the theme in a selfie, and send it back to be entered in prizes. This element was added during COVID when we couldn't do our in-person events, and it has proved to be extremely popular and well-liked. This part of the program is not only fun for participants, but it lets us talk to our customers every week for 12 weeks, and they read our emails. Our unsubscribe rate, out of about 1,500 emails, we've had about 5 people ask to be unsubscribed, which is pretty cool. This year we have over 2,500 people of all ages participating, and we receive hundreds of photos every week. If you have time, check out our photo gallery where we post all the bike selfies that we get every week. And you can see here just an abbreviated glimpse of our week 3 bonus challenge, which asked riders to go out and find a bike ped only bridge or tunnel. So the Winter Walk Challenge, this was spurred from our during COVID when we couldn't be out there in person, and because of the popularity of our weekly challenges with the Summer Bike Challenge, we've developed the Winter Walk Challenge as a sister program. So it's a 3-year-old program started during COVID, and it continues to grow every year. It doesn't have a game board, but again, we send out an email every Monday morning for 3 months in a row with a new walk theme. And despite the torrential rain we had this last winter, we had over 2,700 people participating and received over 4,000 photos. So this collage on the screen here is just a little example of the entries people sent in to capture the weekly themes. So while 501 Contra Costa doesn't do the hard work of building the roads or driving the buses, our programs have helped us build relationships with the public, and as a result, people are listening and hopefully saying yes to trying new modes when they can. Our newsletter subscriptions, as I said, and our social media base continue to grow because our programs are fun, our excellent customer service is genuine and relevant. I can brag about how great these programs are all day, but it might be easier just to read some of these great comments that we get every week. And I'm not going to read them all out loud, but for everyone here, I should say, who's working in the public sector, you might want to take a look at the one in green on the bottom that basically says, "I am so happy that my tax is being spent for the right thing." So we're pretty proud of that. That's going to wrap up my presentation. Again, I'll remind you to please sign up for our newsletter and share it with your constituents. And I'm going to turn it back over to Ying, who's going to talk about the future of TDM.
Thank you. I'm here just want to give you a preview of some of the ideas we have in terms of the future improvements. And also want to hear your feedback. So the first future, one thing we want to share with you that starting in fiscal year 24-25, we'll implement the TDM program as 2 separate programs. One as Safe Route to Schools, the other one is as commute alternatives. So one of the key reasons why we run them as 2 separate programs is because the OBEC grant that CCTA received. So last year, our planning staff updated you with the news that CCTA was awarded an OBAC 3 grant to provide a county-wide Safe Route to School program. So currently, the Safe Route to School program is not available to all schools. With this federal money, we'll be able to provide the Safe Route to School program to all schools in Contra Costa County. And so that includes 274 public schools in 18 school districts. So we are very excited about it because it provides not only covers the entire county, but also equity access to the schools who are not receiving this program today. This is in West County. Next, just want to show you the funding as well as the partners. So altogether, the Safe Route to School program, the total cost is about $4.3 million. The OBAC grant gives us almost 3.7. The local match, it comes from Measure J as well as the local agencies' contribution. Definitely want to highlight the partners. In addition to CCTA, the county public health is really taking on the heavy lift in starting new program in West County. City of San Ramon will be continuing and expanding their current program, and they all partners contribute to the local match using either Measure J or the local funds. The program will start in fiscal year 24-25 and will cover 4 years of programming. And the next, I want to touch on the commute alternatives. I want to share with you some of the ideas we are thinking to move this to team calls the TDM 2.0. One thing we really want to focus is we want to enhance CCTA's presence in this program. As Kirsten mentioned, this is a well-loved program. We want people to know that CCTA is the one funding and leading this very meaningful and wonderful programs in the county. And we also want to connect our program, have a better connection with the vehicle miles travel reduction. So this is the metric in measuring transportation impacts. And currently, we don't have the strong tools to measure the vehicle miles reduction. And we want to look into the current trends and look into new tools to help us to really build a nexus. So people know when they do those things, they are helping to reduce the vehicle miles travel. And for CCTA and the local agencies, they know this is something, a tool available to all of us. We also, in our looking forward, we want to look at a more data-driven approach, measuring the trips reduced as well as the VMT reduced. We want to introduce technology in our work. The MAS program, Mobility as a Service, we think this is a good tool to help us to pass on the passenger information, help people with the trip planning, and really help them compare the different options when they try to make a decision either on a weekly or daily basis, what options are available to them and how they compare in both the time and cost, as well as the green effect, right? How much impact you're making or how much impact you can be reducing. And this program will be funded, it's currently funded by Measure J Program 17, as well as the Transportation Fund for Clean Air. And I do want to remind you, this is actually an action item. It ties to your annual allocation to program, Measure J Program 17, as well as the TFCA. And the staff recommendation is for you to approve Resolution 23.18G to allocate TFCA and Measure J Program 17 funds for fiscal year 23-24. That concludes our presentation, and we're here to answer your questions.
Okay, thank you. I want to thank 511 for the great work that they continue to do. We'll get board comments. Member Kelly, followed by Noel.
Thank you, both of you, for a great presentation. I have a question for Kirsten. And by the way, I do subscribe to your newsletter. Do you reach out for green commutes? Do you reach out to employers, large or small, and let them know about what your offerings are? If their human resources department know about that, they can spread the word to their employees.
Yeah, that's a big part of what we do. We try to, as I say, we do reach out to employers. We offer transportation, lunchtime transportation events so we can talk to people. We do customized travel surveys for their employees. We want all the employers to be signed up and to push the words out for us. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you both. A lot of great information. And Kirsten, I was glad to hear a lot of the numbers that you had. And I jotted down 2 numbers I would love to see more detail on, like on the guaranteed safe rides home, how many actually occur, how many have used your secure, your cycle, because I think the numbers really are impactful on how successful the program is. I know how successful the bike challenge is in Pleasant Hill. I've ridden it a couple of times down to city to get ice cream, and so further numbers on all the other programs would be really great too, just to better understand. The only one thing I have, and this is, I think Kristen sat through some of the presentation of Pleasant Hill on this, on safe routes to school. When we were doing looking at roads that would qualify for safe route to school grants and stuff, they aren't the safest routes for the kids to ride to school. And so there is a great deal of confusion by the public when we say we're going to get a grant for safe route to school on a road that we actually would tell people not to ride their bike onto school. And so, we're doing additional drawings to show really where the true safe routes to school are versus the ones that qualify for grants. And I don't know how we communicate that better or change the name or something, but it is very confusing to the public when we get safe routes to school funding for a route that's not the safest route to school. So I'll just bring that up for food for thought for the future. Thank you.
Okay, other members' comments? Do we have any member of the public that's in here or remotely?
No public comment, written or verbal.
Okay, thank you. So there's a recommendation before us. Is there?
I'll move the item.
Second?
Moved by Noack, second by Arnrich. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Carlson?
Yes.
Commissioner Fideli?
Aye.
Commissioner G?
Aye.
Commissioner Haskew?
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Noack?
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Thorpe?
Aye.
Vice Chair Arnrich?
Aye.
Chair Glover?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously with Commissioner Meadows absent.
Okay, again, I want to thank you, Ying and Kirsten, for the presentation today. So we'll move to our next item on the agenda. Can I find it? Okay, and that will be okay. This is an informational item that will be presented by John Wong on the draft overall work program for Contra Costa Transportation Plan 2050. Welcome, John.
Good evening, Chair Glover and Commissioners. John Wong, Director of Planning for CCTA. Tonight, I will have a short presentation on the overall work program for the Countywide Transmission Plan 2050. And you've heard a lot of presentation information. Oh, I'm sorry, you don't see it.
She's retired.
Okay. So for this presentation, I was mentioning that you've heard a lot of information tonight on the other previous presentation on all the great programs and projects that we're working on and then the upcoming program projects for the BMT. So I want to shift gear a little bit and focus on the far future, 2050. So this is an initial introduction to the, I'm sorry, can you hear me now? So this is an initial introduction to the countywide transportation plan development effort. We'll be bringing this CTP work to the board very frequently over the next year and a half. So this is an information item, and we really want to kind of set the stage of where we're going with the development effort. Again, we tagged it as planning for tomorrow's transportation. I'm going to go over some of the items that was in the overall work program that was included in your packet. So just to take a step back in April, the board did receive the draft action plans from the 4 RTPCs, Regional Transportation Planning Agencies. And all these action plans work was really done by the local city staff and the transit agencies and all the representatives from the RTPCs. And the intent is to really roll this into the CTP effort. A lot of the recommendations and the performance measures indicate at the local level will be incorporated into the countywide effort at the regional level. These are some of the regional transformation objectives that was developed through the action plans. And again, we want to take that into consideration. These are only a listing of a few of them. There's quite a number of RTOs, but we will only take those as a starting point in developing the regional performance elements. This nice diagram here really shows you the different phases. We're right in phase 1 today, really focusing on the developing an engagement outreach effort, developing the vision and goal setting, and I'll go into a little bit further in the next few slides, and also preparing some policy papers. We don't do this in a silo. We rely on the board, but also a lot of other folks in the county, a lot of stakeholders that are interested in transportation and housing, land use elements, besides the existing CCTA committees. We do have other stakeholders and public that will be contributing into the development process. The CTP task force is something new that we've created that consists of representatives from the RTPCs as well as MTC and the transit providers. This is a listing of some of the stakeholders that we'll be working with over the next several months and year and a half. Besides local jurisdictions, we're going to be looking at the non-government organizations, NGOs, and other advocates throughout that are interested in helping us provide the best plan that we can. I'm going to focus on outreach. We need to do a lot of outreach as part of this project. We're going to leverage a lot of the programs and projects that we've done through studies. Currently, we're doing the Intimate 680 and then also the Highway 4 Visioning Study. There's going to be specific outreach that needs to be developed. And as soon as the new Director of External Affairs come in, we're going to really put together an outreach plan. As you have recalled, this is what we call the summer event series that we've already started. The purpose is to have an event at each city it's actually started back in April all the way through October. And not only the CTP will be presented, but as you know, other programs and projects that CCTA is currently doing. I mentioned the policy papers. earlier. So we have on-call consultants, expert in their areas, and we've assigned different consultants to lead each one of these papers. I think one of the critical first step is to define what the vision is, and it's really up to the board to define what it is that the board thinks is the vision or wants to be the vision for the CTP 2050. We're going to leverage some of the action plans information. I think we started kind of this discussion last year at the last year's retreat, and we're going to continue this at this retreat later on this year. I think it's October. By that time, we'll have the policy papers drafted up, and we'll be discussing and delving into that information closely. Again, vision, goals is the other part of it, and this is taken from the last transportation expenditure plan. This can be used as a starting point. I think a lot of the information has been vetted, but the board can certainly use this as a starting point to develop new visions and goals going forward. This is a snapshot of the overall schedule of the CTP. Again, we're looking at developing a plan and having it a draft, bring it to the board in late 2024. I also didn't mention earlier, but we will be doing an environmental impact report for this process, and that will be started this month. We're developing the RFP to solicit the consultant to start doing that EIR. And we hope to finish this process and get the board adopted in early part of 2025. With that, that concludes my presentation. I really want to kind of prompt some discussion items as to additional items we need to consider for the overall work plan. The work program is a living document, and we can certainly refine it as we go along. We want to have ideas for outreach and just the input for the CTP process in general. Again, there'll be plenty of opportunity. This will be the initial opportunity for the board to provide. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. This is an informational item. Do we have any board? Yes. Member Noah.
It's me again. Just great, thank you, John. Appreciate it. And I know MTC is doing sort of Transit 2050 Plus and doing public outreach as well. Are we coordinating with them to be at the same place, or them to be with you guys at the same place? Because I think it would be great for them to be at some of the events that you guys are participating in.
Oh, that's a great point. And actually, since you brought up MTC, Metropolitan Transportation Commission, so we are following the guidelines that they've distributed. And as you all know, MTC is updating their Plan Bay Area 2050, called it a minor update 2050 plus. Staff is participating in that update, and of course there's some correlation, collaboration that can be done as part of our update too. And then I'll certainly reach out to MTC and look into the transit plan also.
Yeah, they're not going to have as many outreach things as you guys are on the county, but I know they're planning on having a couple, and I think it would be great to coordinate with them, so you're hearing the same messages from the public stakeholders. So, great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, any other members? Okay, do we have any public comments on this?
No public comment, written or verbal.
Okay, thank you. Again, John, thank you for the presentation. And that concludes our agenda items. You have no correspondence within your package tonight, and the next associated committee reports, meeting reports from SWAT, WestCat, and a cancellation notice from Westpac are provided in the package. Now we will have board members' comments, if there are any. Yes. Member Kelly.
Well, speaking of public outreach, I've attended a couple of the CCTA events, one in Pinole and one in Pittsburgh, where we had a booth and we had the shared autonomous vehicle. There was a lot of interest in this, and one of the first questions people would say is, hey, when is it coming to my town? So there's definite interest in that and some of the amazing things that we're doing. And I will keep trying to attend all of these events that I possibly can. And it was great to be there with staff and kind of urge people to come in and tell them about CCTA and tell them what we're doing. So I look forward to more of these events.
Okay, thank you. Member Peoples.
Yeah, just a brief comment. Last week I was down at the 19th biannual UC Davis Institute for Transportation Studies Asilomar Conference, try to say that quickly, where they talk about transportation and air quality, and it's preceded by a California-China 2-day meeting of air quality regulators. As usual, it was really interesting. One of the more interesting things they had there was Amazon is contracting with Rivian to make electric vans, and it's a very nice vehicle. It's very well done. It's only 100 kilowatt hours of batteries, but they get 140 miles out of that, and it's the size of a fairly large UPS truck. But there was lots of interesting things going on there.
They're coming in and out of Livermore all the time.
Ah, okay.
Okay. Any staff comments?
Always. Well, first, I wanted to welcome Commissioner Perkins to the Authority Board. So he kind of came in from SWAT and San Ramon and replaced Commissioner Hudson on the Authority Board. So really appreciate you being here.
Just a quick update on Mayor Hudson. He seems to be improving every time I see him. He is still more comfortable in a wheelchair, though he says he can walk, but he gets very tired very quickly. And he wishes he could do more, but transportation and the demands on his wife would preclude from him being involved at the same level as he was before. But thank you for the greeting, and I look forward to the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you very much. And also Commissioner G. So thank you very much for being here. And so I wanted to start off first also welcoming Luna finally officially on board. It's been a tough couple weeks without a Department of External Affairs person. And so it's been challenging, so I'm looking forward to finally working with Luna over the next couple weeks. And then a quick update on that, we did close our process to find a new Director of External Affairs. We got 42 applicants into the position. And of those applicants, I think we're looking to move almost half of them into a process to evaluate. So we've got some really, really good candidates for the Director of External Affairs position. And then, I don't know if you noticed to your comment, Commissioner Nowak, if you looked in the Executive Director's report, I actually outlined all the facts and figures of the 501 program. So it's in there, it shows all the incentives, the rebates, everything in there. And if anyone wants more information, I think that's great, because I think what we're missing is those facts and figures. We don't have that data to be able to explain and tell the public what's actually happening with some of these programs and some of these dollars that we're actually spending. And so I actually met with the 501 team and we talked about that very thing, and that's actually why we actually got all those data points. But I actually asked the 501 team to start giving this data to us on a more periodic basis so we can start kind of putting it into more of a dashboard type of system. And so that's actually one thing that we're working on. I know there's been a lot of talk about data, particularly transit data. And so we've been actually looking for a partner to help track that transit data. And I think, to your point, Commissioner Nowak, and others, the integrated transit plan and transit is going to be really crucial in terms of data and where people are going and how that's going to feed into that process. And so, so we've been working on creating an actual visual dashboard that'll be accessible by the public. And so we're working on that, and we're going to be sharing that soon as we continue to build out these facts and figures and showing where a lot of these data points and programs are going. We also have data in there about the congestion on each of the corridors. We also have data in there on active safety and accidents and traffic safety. We're also going to be uploading transit data in there as well as the 501 data. And so I've been really kind of impressed with some of the other agencies that I've seen over the last year in the ways they're collecting data and using data. And so that's something that I really want to start doing here at CCTA. Also, you might notice in the executive director report, I added kind of summary topics rather than just the same old like meetings that I'm going to. And so in there, you'll see a communications update. So I know outreach and communications are very important to all of you in terms of how we're increasing our, our exposure, to the public. And so this past month, we had over a 33% increase in website and social media hits on our website and social media links. And so we're continuing to build on that. And again, I'm excited to work with Luna as well as the new Director of External Affairs to continue to increase our presence both digitally but also out in the community. And so we'll continue, what I'll do is I'll try to continue to provide more community and communication updates in the Executive Director Report. Also in the Executive Director, in there is the Presto update. So we actually had an increase of over 70% in ridership in Presto over the last month. So the word is getting out. It's getting more ridership. We're averaging about anywhere from 60 to 70 people per week right now, and that continues to trend up. We're also been optimizing the route based on stops and trying to really hone in on what people need based on the survey and data that we're receiving. I will say we're still having communication issues with the shuttles. And so that continues to be a problem, and I know that we're working closely with BEEP to continue to come up with solutions. Commissioner Kelly mentioned the summer event series and just some data points there. At the Pinole Summer Event Series was at the Classic Car Show, and we had over about 400 touch points with the public. We actually been keeping track of how many people we've been talking to at the events. At the Pittsburgh event, we have about 140, and that was really due to the 100-degree heat that day. And so we're continuing to track and gather data, but to Commissioner Kelly's point, we've been getting a lot of great information, a lot of great feedback that we're both using in the countywide transportation plan and other initiatives. The other thing, you should have gotten an email on this, but we did finally come up with a date for the upcoming board workshop. So it's October 19th and 20th. So hopefully you've marked those dates down, have them on your calendar. That board workshop will be a follow-on to the board workshop we had last September. So we're planning on talking more about CCTA 4.0 as well as the countywide transportation plan. John will be ready to, he mentioned, setting a vision, but he'll also be ready with the policy papers and getting some great input from the board in terms of the direction of where we want to go with the countywide transportation plan. We'll also be talking about the integrated transit plan. I think we'll be at a point in terms of, have some good data to present to you, but also follow up on the presentation that you got today relative to transit landscape, and particularly Mr. Barnes talked about fiscal year 25 funding and how we're going to be addressing that, so that might be a topic of discussion as well. And then also wanted to let you all know, we'll be sending out an email probably tomorrow, but there's going to be a closure on I-80 in Hercules, a full closure for a pavement rehab project. And then also just want to announce that you all get the day off in August. We are dark in August. So just want to make sure that well, I guess you got the special board meeting. Oh, all right, you have to come in for 15 minutes, okay? Virtually. So, but we do have the special board meeting for the extension of AB 361, but in general, no PC, no APC, no authority board. We're dark in August, so just a friendly reminder on that. And obviously, we'll be here working, and if you need anything, please let us know. So thank you very much, and I'm surprised. I actually was not anticipating the meeting to go this long tonight, but I appreciate everyone hanging in tonight.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Commissioner.
I do have a question on September 20 conflicts with the League of California Cities convention. September 20.
October 19th, 20. For the workshop.
October 19, 20 is the workshop.
Oh, yeah, our next board meeting.
Board meeting conflicts, and 8 of us might, or most of us, will probably be at the league convention on that.
So what we'll do is Terry Ann,
What's that?
It's a hybrid meeting, so we
But we're outside the jurisdiction.
so Terry Ann will send out an email and we'll determine if we've got a quorum or not for the September 20th meeting.
Okay.
and some of us can do it virtual.
Actually, we're not using 361 for the board meetings, only for the committee meetings. Yeah, so we have to be here in person for the board meetings.
Okay.
So we'll follow up. We'll follow up.
At least 4 or 5 of us will be at the
Okay, so yeah, staff will get a hold of commissioners and see whether we can generate a quorum. Okay? Representatives, any? No? Okay. And your report is in the packet also, right?
Yeah, my ED report's in the packet, and like I said, it's got some good information in there on statistics and so forth.
Okay, thank you all. We are adjourned.
He had a stroke in January, and he was pretty much out of action for about 3.5 months. Making appearances at council meetings.